And away we go. It is the Nightcap, brought to you by Hail Mary Sports Bar, right here on BearcatJournal.com. As always, we are live from the Cincy Light Studios. And what better place to get a Cincy Light than Hail Mary's? They're located in Cheviot. They're in the Dora District. You can walk from bar to bar with your Cincy Light, or you can just hang out at Hail Mary's. They've got a 9-screen video wall, 27 TVs in total. Not a bad seat in the house. They subscribe to every sports package DirecTV offers. And Cincy Sports will always be on the video wall. Brand new walk-in cooler, brand new draft lines. And not only do they pour the coldest beer around, but they'll pour your Cincy Light in a 32.8 degree frosted glass. All right, Aaron, I'm kind of sad, man. Kind of sad.
Go on.
The last regular season Sunday night Big 12 recap is upon us.
I'm more sad about that than I am about this season being over.
I mean, this is always a fun show because this conference is constantly drunk. And you never know what is going to happen. And we got our closure as to what the regular season end result was going to be, and the two teams headed to Dallas for the Big 12 championship game. So let's get to it. Friday night, Colorado made very quick work of Oklahoma State, 52-0, and the season of absolute misery ends for Mike Gundy, a team that returned almost everyone after playing in the Big 12 championship a year ago.
Crazy.
Does not win a single Big 12 game.
Yes, Shadur went bananas in this one, 34 of 41 for 438, 5 touchdowns and a pick. You also had Travis Hunter getting 10 catches for 116, 3 touchdowns. LaJohntay Wester, 11 catches, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. They just decided they were going to run up the score with their starters the entirety of the game.
Travis Hunter had a pick, and probably you have to think he locked up the Heisman with that performance. I mean, I know Ashton Genty is a great story. Nobody had a better 1 through 14 regular season than Travis Hunter.
I still like Ashton Genty.
I love Ashton Genty. But he didn't have a better – he was not more valuable this season than the guy that played almost every snap the whole season. So we'll see. I think it'll end up being Hunter. If it is Genty, I'm not going to be livid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think you can go wrong with either guy.
They're two fantastic candidates, and there's certainly a case to be made for both. When you're talking about Genty, it's not just the conference that he went against. He also went against, Oregon and some other big schools. So
I went back and forth throughout the year. There were weeks I was like, man, Genty's got this thing. But to do what Hunter did and just never to come off the field and be great, like every snap, is just it doesn't happen. Like, we never see it. So I think my vote would go that way if I had one.
There's also the fact that you don't know if Travis Hunter was actually a better receiver or cornerback. So.
Right. And he was great at both. Utah, 28-14 over Central Florida. It marks the end for the Gus bus. Gus Malzahn. They can say whatever they want. That dude got fired. He is he stepped down to become the offensive coordinator at Florida State. Give me a break.
He did UCF probably the biggest favor that he could have done the entirety of his time being there.
Yeah.
As he left them with nothing to have to pay him by leaving to go to Florida State.
It clearly didn't work out. They recruited great by the numbers. It did not result in success on the field. And boy, you lose by 2 touchdowns to that Utah offense. I mean,
you also have to think that Gus was probably looking for a job well before the end. to
I'm
just have
sure he
it
knew he
lined
was
up,
going to be fired.
to have it lined up that quickly. Sure. So
Yeah.
again, I just go back to the fact that what a favor.
The crazy part is UCF had the leading passer, the leading rusher, and the leading receiver in this game and still lost by 2 touchdowns.
Yikes.
It's going to be a complete reset there. I mean, just a complete reset. It'll be fascinating to see who ends up with that job.
RJ Harvey, by the way, RJ Harvey did have over 100 yards, and
Yeah.
he should be. It'll be real interesting to see who gets the All Big 12 running back.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to go Scatabo, right?
There's probably like 4 or 5 guys that you could make a case for.
Yeah,
Scatabo's probably got it, but
a unceremonious end for the folks down in Orlando. Arizona State wasted no time jumping all over Arizona. 35-0 at half, 49-0. Scatabo, 177 yards, 3 touchdowns. Levitt just under 300 yards, also 3 touchdowns. And that was a whooping. And Arizona State sends themselves to the conference championship in Dallas.
Everyone should have known this was going to happen when the Sun Devil beat the literal snot out of the Wildcat on the sidelines. That was an omen of what was to come. And then seconds later, after this was happening, they did actually score a touchdown.
Yeah.
So it was just all the signs were there. Levitt had a great game, 291 and 3 touchdowns. Scatabo, 177 and 3 touchdowns. They're just they were the first team that had the plate put before them, and they took it.
Yep.
And 8.
Good for them. Good for them. 10-2, 7-2 in the Big 12. One of those 2 losses to your Cincinnati Bearcats.
They were also one of the teams that decided that flag planting was fun, and they did plant the pitchfork. They planted the pitchfork in the grass at Arizona. I think it was actually grass. It looked like it punctured. And Arizona took issue with it, and there was a kerfuffle there. It wasn't quite what some of the other teams had going on.
There were some Donnybrooks around the sport.
I think we can call this one merely a kerfuffle.
The other game that ended up, being of utmost importance last night, Iowa State 29, Kansas State 21. The Cyclones get the win. They had to continue to sweat it out for a little bit. I'll explain in a minute, but Iowa State gets the dub, and ultimately they end up advancing to the conference championship game as well to take on Arizona State.
First 10-win season for Iowa State.
Ever. Like 129 seasons. First one.
Indiana still does not have one. But worth mentioning, Keegan, if you're listening. But you do have Rocco Becht, 137 yards and 2 touchdowns, nothing to write home about. 187 yards on the ground and a touchdown. I feel like these numbers are starting to look eerily familiar, but they found a way to win, and that's the difference between good teams and not bowling.
Yep. I mean, hand it to them. They got the job done. They were, kind of the more rough and tumble team all year. That defense has been excellent. Kansas State really could never get going offensively. And Matt Campbell, I mean, they did finish 5-4. So my pick to win the conference is off the list. The reason that Iowa State had to sweat it out a little bit is the decider of this whole thing ended up being 2 teams that were not in the mix at all when they took the field. If BYU won the nightcap last night, then Iowa State went to the conference championship game. If Houston had somehow managed to pull the upset, then Colorado would have gotten in the championship game. it got a little dicey towards the end, but BYU holds on. They win 30-18. You feel bad for BYU. They're 10-2 on the season. They're 7-2 overall. Almost had a magical run. They couldn't close it out all the way, but they did get that 10-win season, and that's a tough one for them. I feel bad for them. That seems like a pretty good fan base, unlike Utah, who everybody hates.
You lose 3 fumbles though, and that's part of what kept this game close. And
yeah, for sure.
They didn't have huge offensive numbers. BYU finishes with 167 yards through the air for Jake Retzlaff. He also had 9 carries for 57 yards and 2 touchdowns. 189 yards total rushing for the team. But again, you fumble the ball away 3 times. That's going to create some issues for your team.
Yeah. Keeping it moving, Baylor. I told you, Aaron, I was afraid of this, that Kansas was going to be flat after picking off 3 ranked wins in a row. 3 ranked wins in a row. They lay an egg, and Baylor just dominates 45-17. Baylor finishes 8-4, 6-3 in the conference. Kansas 5-7 and 4-5 in the Big 12. They do not get to a bowl game. Heck of a job by Dave Aranda this year. After looking like at the start they were going to be Oklahoma State. I mean, they look terrible.
I thought he was going to be potentially fired by midseason.
Yeah.
Look, Baylor joins Colorado this week as another team, over 600 yards of offense, 310 through the air, 4 touchdowns for Sawyer Robertson. And then you had 295 on the ground on 49 carries. An average of 6 on 49 carries is crazy. 2 more touchdowns there. That offense is firing on all cylinders. They probably are, of course, they're going bowling, but they're probably going to hate that the season ended when it did, because they could have kept going and running crazy numbers up on everybody.
Just a dominant showing by Baylor. And then finally, talk about dominant performances. Texas Tech 52-15 over West Virginia. And Neil Brown got fired today. So if you were wondering, that job's gonna be interesting, because I've heard some rumbling through the grapevine that a former national champion is looking at a return to the sport with that job.
There are some tweets going around about potentially bringing back a former West Virginia coach where did he end up going? He went to Arizona, I believe. In Rich Rod, but then you also have, I saw his name out there, but then you also, of course, have some Twitter buzz going around about Jimbo Fisher potentially being involved in that.
I have heard through the grapevine Jimbo is actively trying to get that job.
Well,
we'll see.
It's so weird because he's getting paid. That would be doing A&M another favor, because he's making generational money sitting on the couch.
I would
generational money.
I wouldn't even look at a football with that kind of money. I'd be good. I'm out. Can't pay me to work again.
Find any other hobby.
Yeah.
Side job, whatever.
There you go. Taj Brooks, 188 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jeremiah Kelly, 150 yards. Morton, 360 passing. A whooping from Texas Tech on West Virginia. And I mean, I called that one from the start of the season. I said that last year was a mirage for West Virginia, and this year was more of what we expected.
Taj Brooks is another name that I would consider up there for the running back of the year for this conference. So we'll see. There's again, a couple names out there along with Scatabo, so should be interesting.
Basketball, West Virginia beat Arizona in the battle for Atlantis on Friday. TCU fell to Colorado State. BYU beat NC State. And then Arizona State got one over St. Mary's 68-64 in the Acrisure Championship. Houston, ow, I just bit my tongue. That did not feel good. Houston falls to San Diego State 73-70. So Houston 4-3.
Overtime.
So far in the season. UCF squeaks by California Baptist today. And then, in other games of interest, the folks across town, boy, Eric Martin almost got him. Almost got him. Xavier won by 3 over South Carolina State. South Carolina State missed a 3 at the top of the key to send it to overtime at the end of the game. That would have been awesome for Eric. But unfortunately, Xavier gets the job done. Coming up this week, Cincinnati Villanova, obviously on Tuesday. BYU Providence should be an interesting one as well. Wednesday, we get some good ones. We get Baylor, UConn. We get Marquette, Iowa State. We get Kansas and Creighton. And then Texas Tech.
UConn's back at home, so nothing to cry about now, right?
You know Danny. He's not going to go down without a fight.
And then one for dramatics.
And then Thursday, Xavier and TCU. So there you go. That's going to wrap up the regular season in football. We'll be back with something next Sunday. We'll figure it out. That's the Nightcap, brought to you by Hail Mary Sports Bar, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!